Hi, and welcome to The Bottom Line. I'm Pastor Paul Steele from Bethlehem Church in Austin, Minnesota. The Bottom Line is our weekly summary of the previous Sunday's sermon. And usually we're in some sort of sermon series, but this past Sunday, because I had been gone the previous 2 weeks, I wanted to give myself something a little bit easier to do. And so we just had a single sermon based on Philippians chapter 1, verses 27 through 30. Now, the book of Philippians is a letter that the Apostle Paul wrote to the church at Philippi. And he wrote it as a thank you for the gift that they sent him while he was in prison. So he was using this as a thank you note to update them on his condition, on what's happening in his life, but also to give them some instruction. And as we look here at this passage, what we see is that there are certain patterns, certain qualities that should be part of our lives as citizens of heaven. And the first quality, the first pattern that should be part of our lives is that of loyalty. So listen here to what Paul says in verse 27. Just one thing, as citizens of heaven. So as citizens of heaven, this is what needs to be present in our lives. And the first thing is that of loyalty. Live your life worthy of the gospel. Then whether I come and see you or am absent, I will hear about you, that you are standing firm in one spirit, in one accord, contending together for the faith of the gospel. So Paul says that we are to have loyalty to King Jesus, that he is our king. So we are to represent him in this world. We're to have our faith in him. We're to have our allegiance in him. And part of that reality flows out into the fact that we are loyal to one another, standing firm together as we seek to bring the gospel into this world. So the first pattern that we have as citizens of the kingdom of heaven is that of loyalty. The second pattern is that of courage. Listen to what Paul writes in verse 28. Not being frightened in any way by your opponents, this is a sign of destruction for them, but of your salvation, and this is from God. So Paul says, as you do this, as you're loyal to me, as you're loyal to each other, as you bring the gospel into this world, you can expect opposition. You can expect pushback. Satan isn't just going to stand idly by and let the kingdom expand. And so this pushback, this opposition comes in the form of rejection. It comes in the form of maybe persecution. It comes in the form of mental problems and physical problems and illnesses and all of that. All of that is the result of living in a fallen, broken world where Satan has control and he's setting up opposition to us. And so Paul says, no, in the face of all those things, have courage. Because as you stand firm, as you continue to follow after Jesus, that courage is going to be a sign to those who are opposing you of their destruction, that they're on the wrong path, that they're on the path that leads to death. But it's going to be for you a sign of your life, of your salvation. And then the last pattern that needs to be in our lives is that of awareness. We need to be aware of what's happening. So Paul says this in verse 29, for it has been granted to you on Christ's behalf, not only to believe in him, but also to suffer for him, since you are engaged in the same struggle that you saw I had, now hear that I have. So Paul says, not only have you been given the great privilege of having your loyalty, your allegiance, your citizenship in heaven, that you have been granted this because you've heard the gospel, you've responded to the gospel, so you've been given this privilege of having your loyalty to Jesus. But along with that, as citizens of heaven, you have also been given the privilege of suffering. That as you go along, as you do this, that there's going to be suffering, just as Jesus suffered to bring salvation into this world, just as Paul was suffering as he sought to bring the gospel throughout the Roman Empire, there's going to be suffering, and you're going to go through it too. So be aware, and that suffering is not an indication that you're failing, that you're on the wrong path. In fact, it's the opposite. It shows that you are doing what you've been called to do. And so our big idea from Sunday is this: our citizenship in heaven shapes the way that we live here on earth. See, we, as citizens of heaven, we have a different purpose, we have a different set of values, we have a different king. And that should show up in the way that we live our lives. And our challenge is that in our prayers, we are to ask God to help us form a community of people around us to support us. Because when it comes to these life patterns, it is hopeful to have people around us who can encourage us, who can pray for us, who will help us along the way. People who we can do the same thing for. Community helps us to stay loyal, to have courage, and to stay strong during those times of hardship and suffering. Hey, thank you for watching. I'm glad that you're part of Bethlehem, even if it's just here online. Remember that you can join us every Sunday morning at 10:30 here on YouTube or on Facebook, or better yet, if you're in the Austin, Minnesota area, you can join us in person next to Ellis Middle School. If you want to help us out in the work that we're doing here, the two things you can do is, first of all, you can pray. Prayer is what gets this all started. It's the foundation of it all. So pray and ask God to give us the resources and the opportunities to bring the gospel into this community of Austin. And you can give. You can go to our website, BethlehemChurchAustin.com, go to the Give tab, and that helps us with the resources that we need to do ministry here in Austin. And if there's a prayer request you'd like me to be praying about, send me a note, leave a comment, and I will be glad to add you to my prayer list. Hey, thank you again for watching. Have a wonderful rest of the week, and God bless.